Please be seated. The court is now back in session. The floor is once again given to the prosecutors to put a question to this witness. You may proceed. Prosecutor, thank you, Mr. President. Once again, good afternoon, Mr. Witness. Before we broke for lunch, we talked about the senior leaders of the Democratic Cambodia regime who attended the meeting of the appointment of Division 801. And in your interview, in the same document, you talked about a person by the name of Saum. You further stated that one person by the name of Saum introduced Pol Pot, Nuon Chea, Ieng Sary, and Son Sen, and received an appointment letter from these leaders. My question is the following. Who is Saum and what was his role back then? Response. Saum was from the general staff in Phnom Penh. He was the person making the announcement of the Division 801 at the time. And Pol Pot made supplementary announcement. And Saum was actually like an MC during such a ceremony. Thank you. Regarding Division 801, after the 17th April 1975, as you stated, your division was transferred to Ratanakiri province. Can you tell us prior to your arrival in Ratanakiri, what was the name of the zone secretary in Ratanakiri province? Response. In fact, the appointment of that division was for the assignment of our work in Ratanakiri. And actually, each regiment had to go there first to prepare our force and the locations where we would station. And after we went there to settle for the locations, then we returned to bring the rest of the division to the province. Question. Do you talk about the study trip to the location, and once you arrived and prior to arrival of your soldiers, did you know who was the secretary of the Northeast Zone at the time? Response. In fact, I did not know about the Northeast Zone secretary at the time. What I knew was that I had to prepare my regiment and then to station at a specific location there. Question. You also said that during the announcement ceremony, certain leaders, namely Nuon Chea, Pol Pot, Ieng Sary, and Son Sen, and you said Son Sen was in charge of the army. Did you know why Ieng Sary was present during that ceremony? Response. I could not grasp the situation, but at that announcement, or when that announcement was made, there were these few leaders present. And it is my understanding they were the leaders. Question. Before I touch upon the structure, my question is related to the Division 801 after its appointment and after its arrival at Ratnagiri province. Did it receive the instructions directly from the General Staff at the center in Phnom Penh? Response. Personally, I received instructions from Division 801, that is from So Sarun. And I did not know from which level he received instructions. Question. Regarding the number of soldiers, how many soldiers were assigned through Division 801 after it was formed? Respond. The total number of soldiers in that division was more than 5,000. Question. Regarding the structure of that division, can you describe what was the structure below the division? For instance, what came after? Was it a brigade and various regiments? Response. Below the division, there were regiments, and each regiment had three sections: the logistics, the military, and the politics. And then came battalions with three separate sections as well. And then there would be the platoon with the same structure. There would be the chief, deputy chief, and a member. And each structure would comprise three lower structures. Question. And below a platoon, were there squads or teams? Response. The platoon comprised of three teams or squads. Question. And how many soldiers were in a platoon? President, witness, please observe some pause. Witness. Each platoon contained between 35 to 36 soldiers. Question. After the appointment of Division 801, who was the commander of that division? Response. Su Sarun was the commander of that division, and San. Question. What was your role in Division 801? Response. I was in charge of a regiment. Question. Can you tell us how many soldiers were in your regiment? Response. There were 430 soldiers. Question. Now I'll move on to a new subject regarding the communication between division and the center. In your written record of interview with the OCIJ investigators in document E3/402, Khmer page 0037, 9445-246, English page 0038, 1032-33, and French page is 00424046. You stated before the investigators that the division commander Susaruan assigned you in November 75 to Ratanakiri, and once you were at the northeast zone, you had your headquarters in Sieng Pao district, Steng Trai province, close to the Laos border. My question is, in your capacity as the commander of a regiment, did you have to report solely to the division commander Susaruan or to other commanders as well? Response. When I moved to Sieng Pang, in fact not Sieng Pao, it was a district located in Steng Trai, close to the Laos border. The communication was only through the division level and through no one else. Question. Regarding the report regime, did you have to make a daily report? Was it communicated verbally or in writing? Response. It was based on the real situation. There was no modern equipment. Sometimes I had to walk 4 or 5 days to reach the division headquarters. Sometimes when we had a battery for our telegram machine, then we would transfer or transmit it through a telegram. Question. So usually communication could be made via telegram if there was a battery. And if not, then you would go on foot, or you would send a messenger on a horseback. Response. There was no horse at the time. It was done on foot, and it lasted for 5 days for each trip. Question. How many times did you have to report, for example, on a daily basis or on a weekly basis? Response. We were pretty far from one another, or from one unit to the division. It was difficult, and we only report when it was necessary. Sometimes when nothing happened, then we would make a monthly report. Question. Regarding the meetings between the regiment and the division, were there regular meetings held between these two bodies? Response. Sometimes a meeting was held every month, or sometimes it was postponed due to various other duties. Question: if there was a meeting between the division and the regiments, where it would be held and who actually participated in such a meeting? Response: if a meeting were to take place at a division, then the division would invite the regiments to go to its location. And on another occasion, if the division has to settle some issues at a specific regiment, the division representative would go to that regiment's location. Question regarding the reports to the upper echelon above division. Did you know whether or where the division commander report to, and how frequent did he have to report? Response: that was the duty of the division commander, and it was beyond my knowledge. I only knew about my report regime as I stated earlier. Question: you said that you could not grasp the situation whether the report has to be made on a daily basis or on a monthly basis. Did you know to whom the division commander report? Response: at the division level, they had their own means through telegram or radio communication, but I did not know how they would communicate with the upper echelon or how regular the report was made. I have another last point that I'd like to ask you. In your response to the investigators of OCIJ, you stated that while you were in Versailles, you saw the commander Sarun, who went for a meeting in Phnom Penh. My question is the following. Did you see the commander Sarun go to Phnom Penh for a meeting often? Response: sometimes I saw him going up to Phnom Penh every month or sometimes every 2 months. It was not that often because the distance was far. Questioned: and you yourself, did you ever go to attend a meeting in Phnom Penh? And if so, where? Response: since I went to Siem Pang, I did not ever go to attend any meeting in Phnom Penh. Thank you, Mr. Ong Ran. I have no further question for you, and my international counsel have some more questions for you. Thank you, and Mr. President, I'd like my international counsel to put more questions to this witness.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the Chamber, Mr. Witness. My name is Dale Lysack. I'm one of the international prosecutors, and I'll have some questions for you this afternoon. Let me start, if I can, by following up on something my colleague was just asking you about. She was asking you about your knowledge of whether the division secretary sent telegrams to the center. My question for you is, when you were at the division headquarters, did you see the division secretary, Saroon, use a telegram to send communications to Phnom Penh?
I was actually at Siempang and Versailles. I never saw him using a telegram machine, and I did not know about that. In fact, while I was in Versailles, as I indicated in the written record of interview, I stayed there only for a few days. I did not know people who worked with the telegram. So I did not know through whom or where he reported through.
Let me refer you to part of your statement to the Office of Co-Investigating Judges, and this is in your interview E3-402, which was the first interview that you gave. And at Khmer, if you could look at Khmer page 00379448, English page 00381035, and French page 00424049. On that page, you made the following statement, quote, "While at Versailles, I saw Saroon using the telegram for communication as well," end of quote. Does that refresh your recollection, Mr. Witness, as to whether you saw Saroon sending telegrams?
As I stated earlier, while I was in Versailles, I did not see any messages sent. I saw a telegram machine, yes.
Thank you for clarifying that. Let me quickly go back and ask you a few follow-up questions from this morning. You indicated that the person who introduced you to the revolution was named Cheng On. And my question for you is whether this is the same person who, during the Democratic Kampuchea regime, became the Minister of Industry.
I lived with this person, and what I knew was that he was in charge the area west of Phnom Penh, that is to the west of Bat Dang. I did not know his other roles, as I could not grasp it. However, it was him who would induct people into the force. But I myself did not meet him in Phnom Penh.
And you talked about, with my colleague, you explained that after the attack on Udong, that Son Sen, alias Q, came to take command through an arrangement from the upper level. Can you tell us, after Son Sen came to take command, did the Brigade 14 commander report directly to Son Sen, or did he continue reporting through Cheng On?
In fact, upon the arrival of Son Sen, the brigade would report to Son Sen. Cheng On had no longer anything to do with the brigade. The report was made directly to Son Sen.
And did you know where Son Sen's headquarters or command base was located during this period?
Since I was with Cheng On and during the preparation for the attack on Phnom Penh, I saw Son Sen staying to the south of Dam Nak Smart railway station. There was no proper base of headquarters, as I stated this morning. We stayed and worked amidst the jungles and bushes there.
Thank you. Let me turn now to a few more questions about the structure of Division 801. You referred to a person named Son, also someone who went by the code name 06. Could you tell us what Son's position was in Division 801?
Response. Before the forces were merged to become Brigade 14, we had the battalion from the southwest, from Sector 15, and also we were joined by another battalion led by San. So this brigade was established by the combination of the battalions led by Sarun and San.
Now, to move into some further questions about the issues of communications. My colleague read to you a part of your statement where you indicated that Sarun went to attend meetings in Phnom Penh, and you indicated that he would go every month or 2 months. Do you know whether Sarun attended meetings of the division secretaries at the General Staff when he went to Phnom Penh?
Response. I don't know whether the head of the brigade would come to Phnom Penh on a regular basis? I have no idea. But to my knowledge, heads of brigade or divisions had to come to Phnom Penh to work. I just don't remember how often they would go there, but they had to go. And at that time, communication was limited. We had difficulty in communicating one another.
When the Division Secretary Saroon would return from Phnom Penh, would he convene meetings of you and the other regiment leaders to communicate any directives, orders, or information he had received while in Phnom Penh?
Response. When necessary, each commander of division would be invited to come to Phnom Penh. But if the matter to be discussed was mainly about rice production, then heads of the division would be contacted through radio communication to come to Phnom Penh.
Let me try. I think perhaps my question was not clear, or there was a problem in translation. What I was interested in is whether when Saroon returned from Phnom Penh to Ratnakiri, did he convene meetings of the division to talk about what had taken place in Phnom Penh, or to convey any orders or information he had obtained while in Phnom Penh?
Response. As mentioned earlier on, if the matter was not that urgent, upon returning from the meetings in Phnom Penh, he would not convene any meetings. However, if it was urgent that the meetings had to be convened, then he would call such meetings. And if in a situation where the enemies were invading at the border, which was a kind of appalling issue, then we would call to meet him immediately on this.
Mr. President, I'd like to, at this time, show the witness a document, which is document E3/798, which is the 30 August 1976 minutes of a meeting of secretaries and deputy secretaries of divisions and independent regiments. And I have just a couple of questions for the witness on this document.
The President, you may proceed. Court officer, please bring the document from the prosecution to the witness.
Mr. Witness, I don't want you to read the entire document. I simply want you to start by looking at the bottom of the second page, which is Khmer 000-52381. And this is a section of the report a section of the document in which reports or comments are attributed to a Comrade Roon, who is discussing the situation on the Lao border. And my question for you is simply whether you can tell us whether the person who is identified as Comrade Roon was the Division 801 Secretary Sao Saroon.
Response. Suzerain was the head or the commander of the division.
The comments or the report from Comrade Roon talks about a situation on the Lao border. Can you tell us whether you are familiar with the events that were reported by Roon in this meeting? Were these events that occurred in the area for which Division 801 was responsible?
Response. I was responsible at the area near the Lao and Cambodia border, and I had encountered no problem living there, or there was no conflict. But the conflicts did happen under the responsibility of other divisions, not under mine.
And if you could look at the next page of that document, Khmer 0052382, there are remarks attributed to Brother 89. Do you know who Brother 89 was?
Response. I don't know Brother 89. I only know Brothers 05 and 06 who worked with me under the same regiment.
You've indicated that Son Sen used the alias Q. Were you aware of whether he also had a alias that was a code number, like 05, 06, but a different number?
Witness, could you repeat the question, please?
You've indicated that you were aware of one alias used by Son Sen, which was the name Q. Were you aware of whether Son Sen also had a number alias, a code number?
Response. No, I don't. As I told you, I only know two people who used code names 05 and 06. For Son Sen, there was no such coding for him, and I haven't heard anything through radio communication about this.
Mr. President, if I have another document that I would like to show the witness. This document is document E3/1160, and it is a March 11, 1976 report from Division 801 to Brother 89. If I may show this to the witness.
The President, you may proceed, and court officer, please bring the document from the prosecution to the witness.
Mr. Witness, this is a report that was sent from Division 801 to Brother 89, and it's signed by a person named Tin. Can you tell the chamber who Tin was?
Counsel Sonarun, I would like to take issue with this question. The President, Counsel Sonarun, please lay your ground. Counsel Sonarun, I take issue with this line of questioning. The co-prosecutor should have asked the witness whether he has seen this document before, and if not, then the document should be removed. And I understand this to be the practice that has already been applied all along by the chamber, if I'm not mistaken.
Mr. President, if I may respond, there have been a number of exceptions that have been established for that, one of which is where there is a document that of matters of which a witness has direct knowledge, where he can provide information to the court. This is a report from his division. He was a regiment commander, and he is certainly able to assist the court in identifying the author of the document. There is also a reference in here to 05, who he has talked about, who I would like to ask him about. So this is a matter that falls, for which there is a direct connection between the document and the witness. And under these circumstances, we've been allowed to put the documents to witnesses.
The President, the objection is not sustained. This is a unique case, and the document itself is relevant to the information relates to his military unit. The chamber allows such question to be put, and that witness is now instructed to respond. The President continues, it appears to the chamber that Mr. Witness has forgotten the question already. Co-prosecutor, you are now instructed to, or advised to repeat the question so that the witness can respond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, the question was, can you tell the chamber who the person named Tin was who signed this report?
Response. Tin worked at the regiment, what we call Regiment 83 of Division 801. And I indeed understood the question, but I did not see the red light on the mic. That's why I did not proceed to respond as yet. Tin had to report to 89, which is Son Sen. Because Son Sen had this code name 89.
And do I understand you correctly that Tin was the secretary of Regiment 83?
Response. Yes, it is correct. He was assigned or appointed from Phnom Penh like I was, but we worked in different units and he was in charge of that regiment.
While we're on the subject of the regiment, the various regiments, you indicated that you had been assigned to be the secretary of one of the regiments. Which was the regiment number that you were secretary of in Division 802?
Response. I said I was in charge of Regiment 82, stationed at the border in Siampang district.
And what was the name of the person who was appointed secretary of Regiment 81 when Division 801 was established?
Response. The secretary of Regiment 81 was the person by the name of Maud. The position was installed on the same day when I was installed as the head of the regiment.
Turning back to the document, the 11 March 1976 report from Tin, paragraph 6 of that report states as follows, quote, "At the moment, Brother 05 is visiting all regiments with an aim to educate on Communist Kampuchea Youth League." End of quote. Is the person referred to here as Brother 05 the same person that you have been discussing and identified as Sao Saroon, alias 05?
Response. Su Saroon and 05 is the same person.
And did Division Secretary Saroon visit your regiment to conduct political education?
Response. Yes. When I was at Siempang, I received trainings or attended such a session chaired by the person. It was on one occasion.
When Saroon came to conduct political education, how long was the session? How many days?
Response. It was a 2-day session.
And do you recall the subject matters that were covered in this 2-day political education session?
Response. The content of the education was about strengthening the forces and about the party's line and other details. We were asked to make sure that the youth league could build ourselves.
I want to refer you now to another statement that is in your first OCIJ interview. This is document E3/402, and the reference is at Khmer page 00379448, English 00381035, and French 00424049. And in this interview, you made the following statement, quote, "While studying in the brigade in Ratnakiri, Saroon taught us not to hit the hostages and to send them to the top." And then continuing at the end of this paragraph, quote, "Saroon did not give the instructions on spies, but the people who had arrested them had to send them to the top." End of quote. Can you tell us what did you mean when you said that hostages or spies had to be sent to the top? What did you mean by that?
Response. When it comes to hostages, we refer to the people arrested at the battlefield. Spies, referring to people who were spying on us, and we received instruction from our superior that if any unit had arrested any of them, we were asked not to beat them, but had them sent to the division, who further sent them to the upper echelon.
Thank you. I'd like to now turn to some questions about the general staff. And before I ask you these questions, I want to make sure I understand the general order of where you were located during the regime. I'll ask you some more detailed questions about the time period and more specifics later. But you've talked to us already about being in Phnom Penh in 1975 and then being relocated to Simpong in Stung Treng. Do I understand correctly that later you came to Phnom Penh for a period and worked at the general staff, and then following working or being assigned to the general staff, you later returned back to Ratnakiri before the end of the regime? Is that the order of where you were located and the jobs, positions you held during the Democratic Kampuchea regime?
Response. Before I came to Phnom Penh, I was asked by the division to Vern Sai, and these are the orders I may wish to elaborate. At Vern Sai, I was there to receive some work in the division. I was asked to replace 06 by the name of San. I asked what I was expected to do because San had already been removed to Mundolkiri, so I was then told I had to replace him. And later on, I returned to my workplace, and then we come back with Kao Sarun, and the upper echelon assigned me the task to be the successor of 06. So, to put it simply, So Sarun, Run, and I myself were the members of the division because San had already left.
I'd like to ask you now some general questions about the general staff in Phnom Penh, and I will get to some more specific questions about the period that you were there later. Can you give the Chamber a general description of what the role or function was of the general staff in Phnom Penh?
I touched upon this issue earlier. After the announcement that I came to replace 06, about 1 month after, I was instructed to come for a study session in Phnom Penh. Less than 1 week, I became sick. Then I stayed at the general staff. In fact, there was no proper announcement or official announcement of the general staff. It was not the same as the announcement of the appointment of Division 801. So I stayed there until I recovered, and I was not given any specific task. The general staff comprised Saum, Nat, and various other individuals, but I did not grasp the actual role of those people. I was not given any specific task, so I only stayed there. And also because of my poor health, I did not engage in any activities.
Were Saum and Nat members or cadres at the general staff during that period when you were located there in Phnom Penh?
As far as I knew, Saum, Wat, and Chan were members of the general staff at the time, because in the morning I saw them busy with their work.
And where was the general staff's office located in Phnom Penh?
The general staff office was located behind the Ministry of Defense.
And how many people worked at the general staff office?
When I stayed there were 3 general staff members, and there were a total of 30 staff.
And when you were at the general staff office, did you see whether it had its own telegram or telegraph machine through which it was able to communicate with divisions located outside Phnom Penh?
I never went upstairs to see. However, I heard the sound from the telegram machine, although I did not know whether the arrangement of the transmission of messages through that machine. The main point at the time was to maintain secrecy, so if I did not have any duty there, I would not go there.
Do I understand from your answer that the telegram was located on the second floor of the general staff?
I did not really say that. However, we could see that there was a telegram machine, as you can see the wires going into that room.
Can you tell us whether the general staff whether one of the responsibilities of the General Staff was to supply weapons and ammunition to the divisions and independent regiments.
While I worked there, I never saw any representative from the general staff going down to our regiments to distribute any weapons or ammunition, because that was part of the logistics section. But indeed, there was an arrangement between the general staff and the logistics.
Did the General Staff have a separate logistics office?
What I could not grasp was that while I was at the general staff, I saw only the 3 individuals, and I did not know whether they had various other offices within the general staff.
Let me turn now to Mr. President, I'm going to turn to a different subject now.
President, thank you. The time is appropriate for a short break. We will take a break and return at 3 p.m. Court officer, could you assist the witness during the break and have him return to the courtroom at 3 p.m. The court is now adjourned.
សូមក្រោកឈរ